I recently bought Impossible Mission 3 for the Commodore 64 and I thought this would be a good moment to go back to the first Impossible Mission, which I have on Evercade on the C64 Collection 1 cartridge. This is not a full review, I have not played these games enough for that. This is more like a first impression from the point of view of someone who is still new to retro games. And also I don't have any childhood nostalgia for this series. So when I first played the original Impossible Mission, I didn't not immediately think, wow, this is amazing. My first reaction was a bit different. The game felt difficult, it felt a little rough, and at the beginning I was not always sure what I should do. The controls also need some time, it is very easy to make a mistake, you jump too late, move too early, or simply don't understand the room yet, but at the same time there is something strange about this game. Even when I was not fully enjoying it, I still wanted to check one more room, I wanted to go through one more door, I wanted to try again. And I think this is the most interesting part of my first contact with Impossible Mission. It is not a game that won me over because it is smooth or easy. It doesn't guide me step by step, but it creates curiosity, and because of that I can understand why so many people remember it as a classic. Even today, when we have thousands of games to choose from, there is still something in Impossible Mission that pulls you in, and when I started Impossible Mission 3, I was mainly curious about one thing: would this new game feel more modern, or would it stay very close to the original? And my first impression is that Impossible Mission 3 stays very close to the first game. If I didn't know that Impossible Mission 3 is a new game made recently for the C64, I would probably think that both games came from the same time period. Maybe one came shortly after the other. And in that way, I think Impossible Mission does a really good job. It doesn't feel like a modern game pretending to be retro, it feels like a game that could really belong on the Commodore 64. It has a similar mood, a similar speed and a similar feeling in the controls. Maybe the controls in Impossible Mission 3 are a little smoother, but I don't want to say that too strongly yet because this is still only my first impression. In both games, I feel that I need to learn the controls, I need to understand the rules better, and I need to spend more time with them. And this brings me to one important point. I don't think Impossible Mission is a game that should be judged only after 10 minutes. This is probably a game where it helps a lot to read the manual first. You need to know what the goal is, how the controls work, and what you are actually trying to do. Without that, it is easy to bounce off the game, and to be honest, I did bounce off it a little, not because I think the game is bad, more because it is not very friendly at the start, especially for someone who didn't grow up with games like this. There is time pressure, there are many rooms, you need to search, remember things, avoid danger, and move with good timing. And I'm still not sure if these games are right for me at this stage of my gaming journey, because I am still at the beginning. I started discovering retro games mainly because of Evercade. Evercade showed me that I can explore many platforms, many time periods, and many styles of games in a simple way. I don't need to build a big hardware collection, I don't need to know everything first, I can just put in a cartridge, start a game and see what happens. And this is what I enjoy the most right now. For me, it is not always about finishing every game, sometimes it is about discovery. I want to see how games from the 80s worked. Later I also want to explore more games from the 90s and 2000s. I want to understand what was hard, what was new, what still works today, and what feels strange now. It is like learning the history of games by actually playing them, not just by watching a video, not just by reading an article, but by trying the games myself. And even if I know that I probably will not finish Impossible Mission 1 or Impossible Mission 3, I still enjoy the process, because I didn't play most of these games as a child. Of course, I knew about some famous titles and systems. I knew that people played on the Commodore 64, Amiga consoles and later on PC, but I was mostly outside that world. When I finally had a computer, I was more interested in movies and TV shows. Games were somewhere in the background. Now it is different. I feel tired of movies and series. I have access to many streaming services, but very often I sit down and I don't really know what to watch. I have already seen many things and many new shows don't really grab me. Retro games started to feel different. They became a way to take a break, a calm hobby, a way to focus on something simple for a while. When I play or search for old games, I stop thinking about everything else. I just check one more game, one more room, one more cartridge, and that is why the C64 became interesting to me. On one side, it is an old platform with many classic games, but on the other side, it is still alive. People are still making new games for the Commodore 64. Of course, it is not like modern PC or console gaming. It is not a huge market with big releases every week, but new and interesting games still appear. Some of them are simple, some of them are very retro, but this is exactly why they are interesting to me. And Impossible Mission 3 is a good example. It is a new game for an old platform. It is modern in one way, but at the same time it is very close to the original style. And that is why I wanted to try it. After my first contact with Impossible Mission 1, I was not sure if this series was for me, but something still pulled me back. So when I saw Impossible Mission 3, I thought, okay, I want to check this. Maybe this new game will be an easier way into the series. At this moment, I'm still not sure. Impossible Mission 3 also feels difficult. It also needs time. I still feel that I need to understand it better, but it gives me the same feeling as the first game. I want to try again, one more room, one more attempt, just a few more minutes. And I think this is my main thought after comparing these two games for the first time. Impossible Mission 1 and Impossible Mission 3 are not easy games for me. They are not games that I loved from the first minute, but they are games that are hard to ignore, and that is interesting, because sometimes a first impression doesn't have to be perfect for a game to be worth exploring. A game can feel old, rough and difficult and still have something that pulls you in. This is how I feel about Impossible Mission right now. I don't know if I will finish the first game, I don't know if I will finish Impossible Mission 3, maybe at some point I will bounce off them completely, but I know I want to give them another chance. And I also want to try Impossible Mission 2 later, because I already have that game too, and I am curious how it feels between the first game and the third game. For now, I see this whole series as part of my retro game discovery. I want to understand how these games work, I want to see why people remember them, I want to know what still works today and what is difficult for someone without nostalgia. And maybe this is why retro gaming is becoming so interesting for me. It is not only about finding games that are easy, smooth and modern, it is also about curiosity, about discovering, about trying to understand why some games stayed in people's memory for so many years. And with Impossible Mission, even after a difficult first impression, I can already see that there is something special here, even if I still don't know if this game is really for me.